What is up, everybody? Happy Schlocktober. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is my good buddy, Chris Anonymous. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
We did that last week, but I don't think anybody saw it, so I wanted to do it again. I am surprised that we're here. Facebook has been down all day long, a worldwide shortage of Facebook. I think it played out the scene in Surrogates. Did you ever see that? Where like at the end, all of the surrogates die, all of the robots that people are meching, and everyone has to like come out of their house and they like see the sun for the first time in years. I
never saw it, but that sounds funny.
No, well, you should check it out. It's a good movie. It's
definitely
relevant to the time. But the movie we're talking about this week is not Surrogates. It is Bad Taste by award-winning director, Oscar-winning director, Peter Jackson. His first film, and I could not be more excited. This film is awesome. I have so many things that I want to say about it. I think that we could talk forever about it.
Yeah, I could talk forever.
So real quick, I will note. So this was his first film. He'd been making films for quite a long time since he was a kid. He had like a Super 8 camera and was just filming everything he could dream up. But this film was like the first thing that he really like set his mind to complete and to distribute. It took them about 4 years to film because he filmed it with just a few of his buddies. And you can really see it throughout the movie. You see like a lot of the same people over and over again. But he filmed it for about $25,000. I can't say how much it made back. I wasn't able to find that, but I'm pretty sure that by now, after Lord of the Rings, I'm sure Bad Taste has at least made $25,000.
It's a cult classic, and for good reason. Yeah. Well, should we get into it?
Yeah, the good. What is good about this movie?
Absolutely everything. There's too much to pick apart in the good section, so I will pass the good section on to you and save everything for later. So
I'm of the same mind, but I want to fill out the section really quick. One of the things that I think is really good about this movie is that it's easy to get lost in it, and lost in a good way. I don't mean like not understanding what's going on. Once you figure that out, it's pretty basic. But while I was like looking at all of the kooky stuff about this movie, I noticed that there are a lot of like camera mistakes, where you can see visible crew members, left out equipment, continuity issues.
Filmed over weekends for 4 years, man. That's amazing how few continuity errors there are.
Well, and the thing is that, I didn't notice really hardly any of this stuff while I was watching it because I was just like so focused in on what was happening. But I noticed that indeed, if you like slow the movie down or pause it or whatever, anytime there's essentially like glass in the shot, like a window or something,
you can see like
you could see
nice.
Camera jibs and things in it.
Nice.
So I don't know, while that might be something bad, I would put that in the good column, that you're just like so invested in it, or I was at least, that I really overlooked literally a lot of that stuff. My other good thing, to me, this feels like a vignette of something that would happen in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Very much so.
If you remember, I don't remember what they're called, but the bureaucratic aliens that read terrible poetry.
Yeah, I can't think of what they're called, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, the aliens in this reminded me a lot of that, and just that, that accent and just sort of the overall like kind of I know they're New Zealanders, but that kind of British like wacky alien
sensibility.
sci-fi comedy.
Yeah.
And I would say the key star in this film for me, who really like pulls all of that together, is Lord Crumb, the main bad guy alien. I feel like that guy deserves an award. I mean, what's his name here? I have it written down. Doug Wren.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Lord Crumb, owner, I assume, of Crumb's Country Delights, the outer space fast food chain that is going to eat people.
It's just such a
barf.
Brilliant, simple, brilliant concept for like a schlocky sci-fi. Like, why are the aliens here? To harvest us for alien fast food.
Duh. I mean,
duh. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Well, okay, so that's your good. Should we go on to bad?
Yeah. Let's do that.
I mean, it kind of pokes at itself. There's no way to really say bad because, like, yeah, it's low budget. First
very
film.
Self-aware movie.
So yeah, and he filmed it over years with friends, right? Man, so there's inherently things that are poor quality, but I wouldn't consider any of it bad. In fact, knowing like what he was up against, I think it's the better. Like seeing what he pulled off with, like, I was like just blown away.
But if you didn't know any of that going into it, you just sat down for the first time, you never heard of the movie Bad Taste, you never heard of Peter Jackson or Lord of the Rings or Brain Dead, Dead Alive. If you didn't know any of that stuff and you thought that you're sitting down to just a sci-fi horror movie, I mean, would that matter? Would any of the obstacles that they overcame and the fact that it took so long to create, would that matter?
No, but I mean, from the first 5 minutes, you know you're watching a low budget schlocky movie.
True.
Right? So if that's not your thing, then that's not your thing. And then, of course, this is a bad movie.
Right, definitely. But the thing is, there's a lot of sins in this movie, but the title itself, it was just so perfect. Bad Taste, right? That just kind of means that they could literally get away with anything. It can be bloody. It could have bad language. It could have nudity if it wanted to. You
could have someone reshoving brains back into their head 3 or 4 times.
Which gets me to the part that I did not like. That's my bad. Probably my one big criticism of it. Not the brain, the brains themselves. I mean, I get it, but I felt like Peter Jackson, who for those who didn't know, who've watched this movie, I don't know if he's the main character. He sure seems like it. Derek, the kind of nerdy scientist guy, there he is, with the glasses. That is Peter Jackson. And I just felt like it was a little self-indulgent, his Derek role, just with pushing the brains back in and the long scenes with him oozing down the aliens. I felt like it was a little much for me. Like he could have dialed some of that back. And not because it was too gory or too gross or whatever. It just seemed weird that, it's him, it's his movie, and he's taking up so much screen time in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to watching movies where people star in their own movies, especially their first several movies.
Right. It makes sense. Okay with it.
Yeah,
that he's in
it. Makes sense. Plus, filmed over 4 years, you control as much as you can control, right? I agree with you. The Derek part seemed a little much in the beginning, but then by Act 3,
take your time.
By Act 3, he totally earned it. Yeah, by the end, it made up for all the extra Derek I didn't need to see in the beginning.
Yeah, he brings the whole thing home in a very spectacular way. That is reminiscent, not reminiscent. What's the reverse of reminiscent? Foreshadowing of the end of Dead Alive, where he like breaks out of the womb at the end.
Right. So
we're gonna have to watch that one.
So that's your bad. Should we get to Schlock?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it all ties together. Which is wonderful, and I think we kind of say this every time. The schlock, it all ties into the bad and good, and I think that's why we love it so much.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much about this movie that I just absolutely love. Um, there's a Sam Raimi aesthetic definitely that you feel, and just that schlocky
Absolutely.
horror. But then there's like this I don't know, cartoon Looney Tunes aesthetic that you see a lot in horror, like Evil Dead 2, but like, and even in Ice Cream Man, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, where he has the frame.
So where it really like, breaks those boundaries between the horror comedy, and it's what makes it self-aware.
Mm-hmm. So like the battering ram in the beginning,
where they're breaking into the shed.
Right. Yeah, they use one of the aliens as like, that is so Looney Tunes and schlocky. And like, of course that's what they do. And like, it sets the tone for like the movie you're going to be in. And one other point about that whole Looney Tunes thing is the cannibal stew, right? Like you could have just had him boxed human parts for the aliens, right?
Which was beautiful, by the way. Which was beautiful. The boxes, the bloody boxes. What a way to like, to condense an entire town
and
to show an entire town.
Yeah, who would have thought they would have fit in these boxes? But like, beautiful. You didn't need this shot. You didn't need this guy. But this is like straight out of like just the silliest cartoon of like, he's got the apple in his mouth. He's in like the vat of about to boiling water, naked and they're putting vegetables in.
He's like Porky Pig or Daffy Duck.
Yeah,
like getting ready to get eaten by Elmer Fudd or something.
Yeah, man. So I love that aesthetic in horror. It doesn't work in every horror movie, but if you can like fit it into your schlocky horror, man, it's amazing. Well,
it's just what makes it over the top.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that guy, I'll say that. So the movie was originally meant to be a short film centered around him. But he went and got himself married, and apparently his wife, his new bride, didn't want him to be a part of like some schlocky splatter film. So Peter Jackson started writing these other parts. There really wasn't a script for this movie. It was just Peter Jackson and his friends coming up with like, what can we put in? What can we put in? And so he starts writing in the parts of these other people and filming that. And then within a few years, his buddy, I can't remember the actor's name. I think the character's name is Giles, the collector.
Right.
He gets divorced. And so he can like come back in while they film the finale of the movie.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So lot of dedication there.
Yeah. I mean, and just the continuity in the story itself without a script is just amazing. I mean, it's kind of sandboxy, right? They're going to go investigate this town. And so that leads to the main part where stuff's happening. So that's an inherently good concept when you don't know where you're going, right? Or don't have a script or something. Right. Like it just, okay, we just narrow in. But
and I wouldn't be surprised if he filmed a lot more than what we saw.
Oh yeah.
Because I know that they did test footage for blowing things up. The house that they had, like they built several models of it, different sizes. They built like a 5 foot high one.
Well, and he made all the guns.
Yes.
All the guns are fake. Oh man, they look so good. Like the practical effects in this for like 87.
Oh
yeah.
So that's just one of the things that shows why Peter Jackson, why he was so amazing. Because let me rein this in. So in watching other big filmmakers, and I'm specifically thinking of like Christopher Nolan, they'll say for first-time filmmakers, when you're making your first feature, don't use guns because they're really hard to get right. They're hard to get the right weight in them. They're hard to get to look real, and they're hard to make sound real. But in 1987, with very limited resources, right? Without digital editing, asset packs that you can just like cut and paste shots into. Peter Jackson made tons of amazing looking guns, and the guy at heart is a special effects guy. Like that is how his brain works. That is the thing that this entire movie was framed around, was what special effects can we do.
Yeah, and the gore and the silliness, they're just, it's amazing. The other thing I really like is like it's an aesthetic, a stamp that of personality that's separate from like just a schlocky horror movie, which in itself is an aesthetic like Evil Dead or something like that. But the Beatles reaction shot, like the fact that that Derek has cutouts of the Beatles in his van and they're driving, and then, you know, they hit the guy, he splits in half, and then you cut back to a cardboard cutout and use that as like the shock, like,
yeah. Well,
like
it's the wink to the audience.
Yeah, but it's a total wink to the audience, but it's so idiosyncratic. It's so like, even in a crazy schlocky horror movie with all this silly stuff, that is really weird. And I just love that he put it in there. I can't. It's awesome.
Right. It's the charm of the movie that makes it self-aware. It's showing the audience how the audience should be reacting, but it's in such a silly way that you can't help but be shocked and then like giggle. Yeah.
There was lots of giggling. There's always lots of giggling in general, but there was lots of giggling. What else did you love? What else was schlocky? What else do you want to talk about?
So the biggest thing I want to talk about, and I just can't separate this, that I can't separate from the fact that Peter Jackson did Lord of the Rings. And to me, those are some near perfect movies. And to see this very imperfect movie and then see Lord of the Rings, but being able to see like where this person came from and went to in his creative career. And you can see a lot of the influences why this person was perfect to take on Middle Earth. Because if you've ever watched any of the behind the scenes of Lord of the Rings, where they're showing how they do all of the practical special effects, where they make Gandalf like normal size and then they make the hobbits smaller, and they do a forced perspective, and how they pull that off. Like I'm pretty sure those guys could build spaceships. It's such a technical wonder. And that all started like right here in Bad Taste. And you can see it with, like I said, the miniatures of the house that he blew up, building the guns, the fact that Peter Jackson plays two characters. He plays Derek, the guy that we talked about already, and he plays Robert, the kind of, I don't know, kind of dumb alien. He's got some sort of screw loose.
And Robert has the more classic Peter Jackson look that I'm used to. Yeah, with the long hair and the beard and the stuff like that.
And I was very confused when I first saw it, because I looked at the credits and I saw that Derek was Peter Jackson, and then they show this dude, Robert, and
you're like, he looks like Peter Jackson.
Wait, that's him. But the fact that they fight, right? Peter Jackson planned out this fight where they're both in the same scene. They're giving punches to each other. I think that's just incredible for shooting on film. He shot on like a really basic film camera, a Bolex, which is basically like, it's like, you know, your parents' digital camera of the day.
Looks amazing.
But he was able to visualize that and pull it off. And I don't think that Lord of the Rings could have looked so good without that type of technical knowledge and a person bringing that sort of technical knowledge to the whole thing.
Yeah, and someone who had experimented for decades. Yeah. Right? Like, let's see how this looks on camera.
like to
I
point
agree.
out real quick that, I mean, that's also something you really don't see in a lot of horror movies, like one actor playing multiple roles. I mean, I think Peter Jackson is basically the Eddie Murphy of horror. I'm
Yeah, that's funny.
like, I think he should do that again.
Yeah. So the thing that I loved, you had talked earlier about like, if you pause the frame on a window, you're going to see some mistakes, right? You're going to see like camera or something like that. But I want to point out his amazing attention to narrative detail, especially visually. The thing that comes to mind is the chainsaw cutout. So initially, the chainsaw cutout is just another Looney Tunes moment, right? Just brilliant.
That's absolutely cartoons.
Yeah, so cartoon. But then later on, when the guy has the rocket launcher, he fires the rocket launcher in thinking he's going to save the day and blow the place up.
Right.
But it flies through the cutout and hits a sheep, and the sheep explodes. Like, that is a brilliant piece of spatial narrative play of like,
right.
Like, how can we not have this rocket launcher work? Well, we have it go through the cut, and it's like a callback on top of that creates a secondary joke, but it also serves like such a great purpose of like, most people would forget that hole was there because they just did it for a joke, right? And once the joke was done, it was done, but not him. It's a callback that actually moves the plot forward.
Yeah, I think you said it. It's spatial awareness of like they create this world with the house, and they really pay attention to that detail. It's kind of like when someone's shooting bullets, and they shoot a lot of bullets in this and maybe didn't spend a lot of detail there, but it's in movies, they shoot bullets and the gun just never runs out of bullets. It's because they don't have like a spatial awareness, a certain reality tied to that gun. But the house, they do. They blow it up.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's also, it's spatial through time, right? Because initially that cutout wasn't there. And then the cutout was there. And now that you have the rocket launcher, okay. Yeah. It's little things like that just make me smile and make me see like, oh, that's why he's such a great filmmaker and made all these amazing movies, because of that attention to narrative detail that it's just like perfect.
Well, and I keep thinking of the cliffside fight, which I thought was amazing. The fact that they filmed it probably like with no safety equipment or anything.
That was so dangerous.
But I remember when he's holding on to the rope, and the rope has been cut because Robert has gotten away. But the look on Peter Jackson's face, on Derek's face, when he they really hammed up that shot to show that he's acknowledging that this rope is cut, that the alien isn't there.
Yeah, that he's gone. And he even looks suspense for him. Yeah. So and then the jump scare of Robert coming out.
Right.
Yeah. So
we knew it was going to happen, but it's all connected. So, I would like to say, unless you have something else to say, I don't want to cut you off.
No, I have one more point to make at some point in time, but go ahead. We still have a little time.
No, you go ahead. I insist.
Okay. That's a Looney Tunes thing. No. After you, I insist.
Duck season.
Rabbit season. All right. So, the hands down. Well, there's some really great lines, but my favorite line is, "I can't. I'm a Derek. Derek's don't run." Right. And again, it's just like, I'm a Derek. Derek's don't run. Very that kind of British humor thing you were talking about earlier. But like, so that's just a funny line for a funny character. But then it comes full circle that he's the character who, even though his brain's falling out and he keeps pushing it back in, which is super silly, he's the one pursuing through the whole thing. And then it ends with him in the spaceship, swan diving with a chainsaw, cutting through the guy. And then he puts the skin back on and says he's coming to get them. I want the sequel. I want Bad Taste 2, where he
Right.
goes to the headquarters of this fast food corporation and just wipes them all out.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And I think that, so the point that I was going to make, Peter Jackson is now forever associated with Lord of the Rings, and he's making big movies, right? The thing he came out with next was King Kong, like a 3.5 hour movie. He's just associated with epicness. I would absolutely love to see him return to form, to like another like low or no budget horror film, to see, what can he do with his knowledge now.
Down and dirty and fast. Yeah. Okay. So Bad Taste 2, starring Peter Jackson, because it took that long for the spaceship to travel back.
Yes.
So he can act it right now, as old as he is. Just, he's fine. It took that long to get there.
So here's my script idea, my pitch idea. There actually isn't a Bad Taste 2, but it's a movie about the making of Bad Taste 2. So like I love showbiz movies. I love there's a new Eddie Murphy one, Dolomite Is My Name,
right,
or The Disaster Artist, about The Room. Mm-hmm. What if they do a movie that's essentially about the making of Bad Taste, and Peter Jackson like has to figure out like how to get back to that form, and that's like the conflict of the movie, right? Is can he return to his former glory in some way? Yeah.
Yep. I'm down. I'm down with that.
Bad Taste 2, a super meta sequel.
He also headbutts a seagull, man. There's just so many great moments.
I saw in the chat someone pointing out that when he goes through the alien, when Derek chainsaws through the alien, he pops out and says, "I've been born again." Like, what bad taste.
Right. Yeah. And especially in a movie that has no overtones like that. Right. So like, it's just it'd be funny if we said this here. Yeah.
Right.
And there's no one to stop him.
Just purely for the laughs.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the whole thing works, right? It's not pretentious at all. It's just a good time. It's just a fun movie.
I have a question. Since the last couple episodes, you've talked about like in narrative or in the film, in the story itself, like how things work. So at one point in time, Derek loses some of his brains and he can't get them back because he squished them into dirt, right? Mm-hmm. So he takes some alien brain and puts the alien brain into his brain and then, just ties it on. Does he start becoming part alien? Can he understand him more? Does that help him? Does he like evolve? Does he de-evolve? How does that affect him?
I don't think he becomes an alien. I think that's what is going to help him like pilot the ship, essentially. Like that's how we're gonna set up Bad Taste 2, how he gets to Crumb's Country Delight home planet, is that he like has some sort of genetic memory now sealed in his brain, so he can like really go and mess with the third class aliens.
The other thing real quick that is awesome about this movie is it does the save the world in the way that I like. Mm-hmm. A lot of big epic movies, it's like, oh, the stakes are save the world. Got it.
Yeah. There's no sky beams in it.
Right.
There's no digital armies.
But if they don't stop these aliens, other aliens will get a taste for human flesh, and it will eventually lead to the end of the world. So the stakes are still the end of the world, but it's in such a weird, bizarro way of like, we have to stop these aliens now before they get our tasty flesh into the mouths of the unknown universe, and everyone comes here and like turns us into cattle.
Right. It's a small setting with big stakes.
Yep.
And that's amazing. And speaking of our tasty we would be remiss if we didn't talk about, That's it. We are running out of time. But the barf scene, the fact that the barf tastes good.
I love that he tries it again and they have to pull it away from him.
Yeah. So much more to talk about. We didn't even get to the New Zealand accents that we couldn't hardly understand. But until next time, we will pick another movie. We will put it up on Facebook for everybody to watch.
Killer Mermaids.
I'm Darby.
I'm
This is Chris. We've been compelled by Schlock, and we will see you next week.
Schlockity schlock. Schlock, 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 schlock. Schlocky, schlock, schlock.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Schlock, schlocky, schlock, schlock.